Hi there, I'm Rebecca and I'm here to talk to you today about the cello. Now the cello is the second lowest string instrument and it's often found in string quartets, in orchestras, and has a really wide range of solo repertoire. Its strings are A, D, G and C, and it can read music in bass clef, tenor clef and treble clef. Some famous pieces you might have heard written for the cello include Bach cello suites, or pieces like the Swan, and there's been lots of concertos written throughout the classical period, romantic period, and now there's even more music out there that's being written now. So when you play the cello, you tend to play between the fingerboard and the bridge, and these two areas are called sol tasto and sol ponticello. Now, sol ponticello writing, it sounds like it's kind of glassy or metallic, and if you were to play in the normal position, it would be like a clear tone. But if I was to play sol ponticello on the bridge, that's what it would sound like. So here's a little section of a piece called Les mots sont allés by Berio, and it begins with normal bowing, and then you can hear where it moves to poco sol pont, so slightly sol ponticello. And then it carries on and it goes to sol tasto. So here, it's a more gentle sound, a more muted sound, almost like a hum. And that's what sol tasto is. And you'd simply notate that by writing sol tasto or sol ponticello, depending on what sound you want. There are different bow strokes. I will start with legato. So legato bowing is a smooth sound. So staccato is a sort of more jagged, spiky tone. Other bow styles include jeté, which is where you throw the bow on the string. And you can control this, it doesn't always have to be random, it can be quite rhythmic. Flautando, which is where you play with light bow pressure and fast. Airy, it's quite smooth, can be quite ghostly when it's quiet as well. Another technique that's commonly found in classical music as well as modern music is double stopping, which is where you play more than one string at a time. And a cellist can sustain two notes for a long period of time. You can do a spread chord of 3 or 4 notes, but you can sustain 2 notes. So here's a little excerpt from Natalie Haas's The Investigator, from a really good book I have of contemporary cello techniques. So there you saw a stopped note and an open string, and they're the easiest double stops to do because you haven't got to worry about tuning 2 notes at the same time, like you do here, which you can hear I played quite badly. Fifths are quite tricky, but I will say generally, don't write a double stop that's much over an octave. You can do a bit more than an octave, but generally an octave is the most comfortable. And once you get higher up the fingerboard, you can do higher than an octave, a bigger interval than an octave. But for lower notes, I'd say stick to around an octave. And open strings, you can pretty much play any other top note over that, but I'd stick to an octave. Or just talk to your cellist, talk to a performer you know is going to play your piece, and that's the easiest way to know whether your piece is playable, full stop. Here are some pizzicato techniques. So normal pizzicato is just simple plucking of the string. Whereas another technique you can use is left-hand pizzicato. So say if you're busy with your right hand with the bow, your left hand can play some pizzicatos. And you can do this with stopped notes as well. So a pizzicato technique found a lot in contemporary music is the snap pizz or the bar top pizz, which is where you snap the string against the fingerboard by pulling it and slapping it down. And I've broken my A string 3 times in a week before doing that, so I wouldn't write a piece that involved a lot of slapping on the A string, because it's the thinnest string, so it's the most likely to snap, and it's terrifying when it happens. A really important thing to keep in mind about harmonics is what sort of harmonic do you want the cello player to play? Do you want them to play an artificial harmonic or a natural harmonic? A natural harmonic is technically easier for the composer, as they have an idea of the note they want to hear in their head, and they write it down and put a circle over it. But it's just harder for the performer in a way, because they have to find that harmonic, and sometimes it's unclear as to whether you want the performer to play an artificial harmonic that makes that note that you've written, or you want them to find an actual natural harmonic. And a natural harmonic is a harmonic that can be made without having to press down your fingers. It's just a natural point on the cello. You have to be very specific about which harmonic you want and whether you want that to be a natural harmonic or an artificial harmonic. Artificial harmonics are a bit harder for a composer to notate, but they're a lot easier for the cellist to understand. So an artificial harmonic is where the most common version, which I'll talk about now, is where the cellist stops a note. So in that case, that's a D. And if the composer wants to hear that note as a harmonic 2 octaves above the note that I've stopped, which is the D above middle C, then the cellist will place their finger a perfect 4th above the note they've stopped, and it will create that tone. So this is how it's notated. And I'll play a little segment of a piece by Arvo called Fratres. It's the ending section, and it uses just artificial harmonics. I'm pretty terrible at it today because I haven't practiced much, but you get the idea. I'll give you guys a few more harmonic ideas. So you can do a harmonic trill by having a stopped note and then notating the upper note of the trill as a diamond note head. And you can really increase that effect by playing Sont. One more technique that everyone loves, is a great gimmick basically, is a seagull gliss, which is where you stop a harmonic, basically, an artificial harmonic, and you gliss with it, and gliss is sliding up and down. So yeah, sounds like seagulls. Bow speed and bow pressure is also a big part of tone production, as well as just if you want to get certain noises out of the cello. We've already talked about flautando, which is fast bowing. If you pair this with a harmonic fingering, but not an artificial harmonic, just a light finger pressure, you get a really cool air sound, and this is called Rauschen. If you do a really slow bow, you get the opposite effect almost of radio static or a groaning sound. If you were to do like light finger pressure or covering the strings, sort of a moaning, and that's quite unstable, but it's a really cool sound to use. Some more noise-based techniques include percussion on the body of the cello, so the top to the bottom sounds completely different, and some areas of the cello are quite resonant, so playing on the tail piece creates a tone, and that's different for every cello. Playing behind the bridge, the pegs, which is quite precarious. One more technique that's used in some modern pieces is Scordatura, which is where you detune the cello. So I've detuned my C string to a B flat, which gives the string a whole different tone and a whole different sound world. And it's really cool to interact with other strings when you have a detuned string. The best way to notate this is to have the lower stave as a sounding stave, which is what the audience will hear and what you'll hear, and then have a stave above that, which is what the performer will play from, which is as if they basically interpret it as if it hasn't been changed at all. So they haven't got to think about where is a D, where's the D going to be on a string that's been detuned a tone, which might sound a bit easy, but it's quite tricky to do the mental mathematics on that.